Here's Rineman in the Morning, on demand from 102.1 and 105.3, The Shark. It's time for your news on the nines with News Guy.
Tom Hanks will speak at Harvard's graduation this week. He will tell students life is like a box of chocolates, overpriced and filled with nuts. The head of Warner Brothers, David Zaslav, was booed during his commencement address at Boston University. I haven't seen such a hostile graduation crowd since I forgot to wear pants beneath my gown. Fashion designer Kenneth Cole spoke to graduates at Endicott, or as he said at the end, graduation caps are so 5 minutes ago.
And that's your news on the nines. Now on Rineman in the Morning, it's What's Up on the Shark app with Megan, the Shark's own app and website guru.
Megan, what's going on?
You and I have had conversations about our thoughts on HGTV and those kinds of house hunting TV shows. But where do you think the biggest home in all of New Hampshire is?
Ooh, biggest home in all of New Hampshire? I'm going to say somewhere in I'm just guessing, the Bedford area?
So it's actually in Alton by Lake Winnipesaukee.
Oh my gosh. I think I might have heard of this place. Is this like this house that's like, should be its own country?
You got to go on the Shark app or shark1053.com to find out.
It has like a bowling alley or something, doesn't it? There's like a bunch of crazy things.
Houses with bowling alleys blow my mind. The thing with these huge homes is all I can think of is someone's got to clean that. And my guess is if you can afford a house like that, you can probably afford to pay someone else to do it.
Which is good. Hey, you're giving jobs. You're helping the economy. And
yeah, that's fair.
Someone's earning a good living. I think I've heard about this house. Alton, near Winnipesaukee.
Yeah.
Giant crazy house. That's just so insane because we wonder how big is their normal house. Is that their full-time house? Do we know?
I don't know.
If that's your lake house and it's bigger than Logan Airport, how big is your house?
It blows my mind when I see when you drive down Hampton and Rye Beach areas, then you see all these big houses. And my father lives in the area and he'll be like, oh, yes, there's a person who lives there. She's there like 3 weeks of the year.
Doesn't that drive you crazy?
And I'm sitting here like, someone else could live in that house.
I know. Well, this is also on the Shark app. I've told the story before when about 20 years ago, I think when I was in college, Steven Tyler almost moved to my hometown in Northampton.
To the house that I affectionately call the White House.
Yes, it is the White House. It's the Fuller Mansion. And that was the thing. It was like, he's not going to be there enough. I was like, I'll stay there. I'll live there when Steven's not around.
I'll hold down the fort for him.
Yeah, man. He and I, we'd get along great.
Yeah. You'd be pals, buddies,
the two of us
chums.
At Captain's Cove playing golf.
Who would win?
I want a do-over, man.
And now, here's Sports in 10 Seconds with the Sportsman.
Do the Celtics think this series is best of 11?
That's your Sports in 10 Seconds with Sportsman on Rineman in the Morning.
Megan, what else is going on?
I know you're a big Stephen King fan because we've talked about it before. So Stephen King's son recently paid a visit to the Exeter Police Department.
Really? Joe Hill, another great horror writer, wrote Nosferatu. It's a Christmas-themed horror novel, I should say, which I read. I got to tell you something, too scary. I think I bailed out. I don't know if I finished that one.
Wow.
Yeah, it's that time of year where I read it at Christmas time. I always try to read those books like that time of year.
You read Stephen King at Christmas time?
Well, no, it was Joe Hill. It was his book Nosferatu, which became a successful television series, but it got too dark. It was too scary. It was that time of year where it's like dark at 3 p.m., and I got too scared. But let me guess, if I go to the Shark app, I can find out what he was doing.
You can find out why.
I think I heard about that. He needed help with something, right?
He did.
Oh, that's really nice.
He got some assistance.
Have you seen his picture? People got to check this out on the Shark app. Does he not now look exactly like
He's the spitting image of Stephen King. It's scary, except his hair isn't gray. That's it.
But no, he looks like when I was a child who Stephen King was. It's unbelievable. It's like something out of The Shining, appropriately. Because I would say as recently as 5 years ago, I could tell the difference.
It is crazy.
Have you ever seen, on my side, it was my great-great-grandfather. I saw he was the mayor of Beverly, Massachusetts.
Did he look just like you?
Yes. Frighteningly. And it's like now that I have a beard especially, because he had a goatee. And I think I first saw his picture when I was in my early 20s, and it was creepy. It was like something out of a Stephen King book where I was like, that's me.
I don't think I've encountered a picture of a family member who looks identical to me, but you can see resemblance. Like when my grandmother got married, her wedding picture. Mm-hmm. I think it's the eyes. I think we have similar eyes.
Do they move in the picture when you walk around?
Yeah.
Nice.
They don't for you? Pictures' eyes don't move when you walk past them?
Oh, no, I don't make eye contact with them. Scared. But if you want to see how much Joe Hill looks like his dad, Stephen King, go to the Shark app.
It's time for your news on the nines with News Guy.
Streaming television services may team up as one bundle comprised of several different channels. It's described as a cross between cable and cable. Yes, television streamers may team up to form one service. Finally, I only have to date one woman for her password. Yes, television streamers may merge, though Netflix and Peacock may want to think of a better name than Cockflix.
And that's your news on the nines. Now back to Rineman in the Morning.
We've reached that point where I wrote a story for the Shark app, and Megan has questions.
So this is pretty exciting. Tom Hanks is going to be giving a commencement speech on Thursday.
That's right. Yeah, right here in New England. Isn't that cool?
In Boston.
Do you think he's going to bring his typewriter along and just type as he goes, "Dear everybody"?
Oh my gosh. Here's what I want to know from you, though. What is your favorite Tom Hanks movie? The only acceptable answer is Toy Story.
No. Well, I would say I think the one that you always sit down and watch, at least on my end, is Forrest Gump. Just because
okay, you know what? That's a good one.
Yeah, it came out, it hits me in the feels. You know what I mean? My favorite character he's ever played, Jimmy Dugan in A League of Their Own, when he's the manager of the baseball team.
Haven't seen that one.
You've never seen A League of Their Own?
Okay. Here's the thing, and I've said this so many times, but I do want to always just say it. I am not incredibly well-versed in movies.
Me neither, but League of Their Own.
I will admit that.
This is your assignment, Megan. You have to see A League of Their Own. It's the greatest baseball movie of all time.
You need to I need to start bringing in an agenda and a planner, and then every week you're just like, watch this video or this movie or this TV show.
I'm your substitute
uncultured
teacher.
Piece of trash.
Hey, there's our button. But no, my favorite though, the one that is my dark horse favorite. It's a movie called The Burbs, and I think it's The Burbs, as in the suburbs. And I think it's from 1988, and it's this guy who's just home on a week off from vacation, and he suspects that his neighbors all of a sudden are up to some dark shenanigans, and he and his two neighbors, one of whom was played by the great Bruce Dern, go and investigate. And Carrie Fisher's in it. She plays Tom's wife, and it's a really great dark comedy. It's my kind of thing. Like if you like a TV show like Barry, or if you like Resident Alien from Chris Sheridan, who was just on, you would love The Burbs. If you want to check out where Tom Hanks has given his commencement address, go to the Shark app.
And now, here's Sports in 10 Seconds with the Sportsman.
In baseball news, Jimmy Butler just scored 40 points against the Red Sox.
That's your Sports in 10 Seconds with Sportsman on Rineman in the Morning.
For today's Brain Freeze, I asked you, what was the name of this venue located in Hampton? It had great summer theater, including shows for kids on the weekends, and you may have seen Jason Bateman, Steve, and Epping.
Hampton Playhouse.
We have a winner, the Hampton Playhouse. Steve, do you remember some of the shows you saw there?
Cinderella, Pinocchio, probably the common ones like that. And then I live 4 houses away.
It was a wonderful place, and you can read all about it today on the Shark app.
It's time for your news on the nines with News Guy.
Do you think they call it Tuesday because it's the second day of the week? I just blew your mind. Taylor Swift is being praised for singing for 3 hours in the pouring rain in Foxborough. Sure, but when I sing for 3 hours with water pouring down, I get banned from the showers at Planet Fitness. For his role as Henry VIII, actor Jude Law says he covered himself in a mix of blood, sweat, and fecal matter, or as it's also known, Axe body spray.
And that's your news on the nines. Now back to Rineman in the Morning.
Megan, what's going on?
So, if you are in the market to get a dog, I have a list of 14 New Hampshire-inspired dog names, in case you're looking for something to name your new friend.
Oh, so this is say, maybe you left the area, you're listening to us on the Shark app, you missed the Granite State, and you want something to remember New Hampshire by. These are New Hampshire-inspired dog names.
Yeah, you can get a dog to give it a cool name, like Winnie after Winnipesaukee, for instance.
Mm-hmm. What would you name your dog? What's your New Hampshire dog?
This is kind of plagiarism, but there's a girl that I know I knew her from middle and high school. She got a dog, and he's a little, I think a French bulldog, and she named him Bowie.
How does she know he's French?
You tell me, I don't know.
Does he bark French?
Yes.
I would go with Fritz, for Fritz Weatherby. That's a great dog name.
Yeah, it is.
And
maybe
he'd know a lot of trivia. Do you think he'd take me out and be like, it was on this spot 8 days ago,
You strike me as the kind of person who
Rex from across the street went number 1. Yes, thank you. I appreciate it, Fritz.
You strike me as the kind of person who would get a dog and then you would come into the office and tell me about the full-length two-way conversations you were having with your dog, and then I'd be concerned for your well-being.
Nah, my dogs don't listen to me.
Aw.
It's Classic Hits for the Seacoast, 102.1, 105.3 The Shark. Thanks for listening to Ryman in the Morning, except for you, Lucy and Elsa.
And now, here's Sports in 10 Seconds with the Sportsman.
Jack Nicholson was at the Lakers game. Here's Johnny. Bye-bye, Bronny.
That's your Sports in 10 Seconds with Sportsman on Ryman in the Morning.
Megan, what else is going on?
Summer's coming, which means it's time to go out and enjoy some mini golf. And so I decided to look for some of the best mini golf courses in all of New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. And I found 8 of them.
Just 8?
8 that were recommended by the locals.
What's
and
wrong
myself.
with them? What's the matter? Is Captain's Cove on there?
Maybe.
Oh, come on. It's gotta be.
Of course it's on there. Who do you think I am?
Shark Gap. I love Captain's Cove. I go there with Sadie all the time. She's very competitive.
That's in Hampton, right?
Mm-hmm. But so am I. Guess what? The other day, it was only my 3rd time playing this year. Shot a 43.
Nice.
Not bad. I was on pace. To break 40 on just my 3rd time. And then I pulled a Celtics there, sort of towards the end, and kind of blew it.
I think the last time I went to Captain's Cove, it was on my 18th birthday. A guy that I was dating at the time took me there.
Oh,
it was
yeah?
nice.
Oh,
it was a
good
nice
one.
time. It was a good memory. I haven't been there in a while, but I like Hilltop Fun Center because I haven't been in there in years, but I get very competitive with the laser tag. I go crazy in there. Like, I'm sweating. I'm like crouching behind.
You take your laser tag seriously.
I take laser tag very seriously.
When you go to the grocery store, you take the scanner and you start hitting people with that thing.
You know what would be
get
cool?
Your practice in.
Laser tag in a grocery store.
That would be amazing.
Like the life, or like a Walmart or a big super center.
We used to play laser tag after work on Thursdays at the Hampton Cinemas in Hampton.
That would be so fun.
It was awesome. It was pretty cool.
Is this still a thing? Why don't we go?
Well, it's not there anymore. It's a CVS, but maybe we could play CVS.
I can like crouch down and shoot you with my little laser gun. You can try to crouch and then your knees will break and then I'll beat you.
Just like you might at mini golf, bringing it back 360 to the Shark app where you can find 8 great mini golf places to go play in the summertime.
Exactly. And one of them is actually home to the world's longest mini golf hole.
Some people have called me a golf hole. At least I think that's what they were saying.
Maybe.
It's time for your news on the nines with News Guy.
A great white shark was spotted feasting on a seal in Massachusetts. And to show you how brazen they've become, he did it at Legal Seafoods. Kim Kardashian is under fire for letting nannies raise her kids. Anyone else think that's actually a good thing? Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos is engaged, but I heard he needs a pill to deliver his package.
And that's your news on the nines. Now back to Ryman in the Morning.
We've reached that point where I wrote something for the Shark app and Megan has questions.
So I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to thank you for being so open and transparent about your mental health journey through Mental Health Awareness Month this May.
Thank you, Megan. And that's actually on the Shark app. And first and foremost, I want to thank everyone at Portsmouth Regional Hospital. A lot of people, there's a stigma against going to seek help when you're just not feeling like yourself. There used to be, and I'm happy to say that that's starting to diminish. It's about time. But what I wrote about on the Shark app was it was related to a physical issue. And if I had not gone in there and had the courage to say, I think I'm having some trouble with my mind, I could have been in a lot of trouble. And I think, just to be frank, I don't think I'd be here with you right now. I certainly probably would not be able to speak on the radio and would not be able to go do all the things I do with Sadie. I wouldn't be able to go to Captain's Cove. You know, your brain is sort of the warning light sometimes. And even if that's not what's going on, even if you're just dealing with a lot, going through different things, it is important. It is a Mental Health Awareness Month. You got to take care of yourself. So just like you go to the doctor for a knee problem, a back problem, if you have a flu, your brain is the most important thing.
Yes, and I totally agree with you when you're talking about how the mind and body are so closely linked. Because I remember I had a pretty bad period as far as my mental health goes this past winter, and you know, my mom had asked me, she said, when was the last time you took vitamin D? Because we were in the middle of winter. It was dark at 4 p.m. And I was like, I haven't taken vitamin D in months. So I started taking it religiously. And it takes a while for that to sort of enter your body. But within about a month, I started noticing noticeable changes. And funny enough, one of my friends around the same time said a similar thing. He said how his girlfriend had encouraged him to start taking vitamins, and he was saying how much more energetic he felt. And I know it, like, everyone's story is different, and like my experience is subjective to me, but it sort of helped me realize that like there were other things going on, but I was experiencing a vitamin deficiency as well.
Yeah, and that's why it's good to take advice. It's good to take use. If you go, I put a whole bunch of resources for people in a bunch of different states that I know listen to the program. And go check it out on the Shark app, and please take care of yourselves. It's Classic Hits for the Seacoast, 102.1, 105.3 The Shark. We'll be right back with more Rineman in the Morning.
And now, here's Sports in 10 Seconds with the Sportsman.
Anyone else buy Taylor Swift tickets with cash? You thought you'd win betting on the Celtics?
That's your Sports in 10 Seconds with Sportsman on Rineman in the Morning.
Bonnie in South Berwick, who is the best-selling author who started out as a teacher in Hampton Falls?
Is it Dan Brown?
Yes, it is. You get it.
Hey.
Bonnie, have you ever read any Dan Brown books?
Yes, I have. The first book I read was The Da Vinci Code, and then I read Angels and Demons.
And what did you think of Tom Hanks in those movies?
I was a little skeptical when he first got cast, but I thought he did an okay job.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was weird when they had Wilson the volleyball play that monk, though. Bonnie, you're entered to win $50 in Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Listen for the grand drawing on Friday, and thank you for playing Brain Freeze.
It's time for your news on the nines with News Guy.
A man tried to drive a U-Haul through the fence at the White House this week. He was apprehended and told to finish his term as president. The judge overseeing Donald Trump's hush money case informed him of things he cannot say. Then Don Jr. said, "You mean like I love you?" France has banned short airline flights in order to combat toxic emissions. Then everyone in the country went back to smoking 200 cigarettes a day.
And that's your news on the nines. Now back to Rineman in the Morning.
Megan, what's going on?
So get this, the world's biggest bouncy house is coming to Massachusetts. And it's not just a singular bouncy house. There are activities for kids and there are activities for adults. It's games and competitions, all the fun in the world. Doesn't that sound like a good time?
Okay, well, I know I have to go to the Shark app to find out where in Massachusetts the bouncy house is coming.
The details.
But can you tell me exactly how big of a bouncy house are we talking here? Because it sounds
It's the
ridiculous.
biggest one in the world, so use your imagination. My guess is think of whatever the biggest bouncy house you've ever seen, and then make it significantly bigger.
Well, I don't know because most of my bouncy house adventures wound up with me being unconscious. So I don't remember how... Oh, it's possible.
No, you're telling this story because as far as I'm concerned, there should be no way. Well, you should remember the before and the after.
No, I honestly didn't do a ton of them because I don't like taking my shoes off. You have to take your shoes off in the bouncy house.
Interesting.
You've done them, right?
Of course.
Well, what's your bouncy house story? It's the most fun you've had in a bouncy house.
I believe it was my 4th birthday. My parents went a little all out, and they got a bouncy house and inflated it in the front yard of my childhood home.
Yeah.
So there are pictures of this pink and purple bouncy house, and I remember there were a lot of people there, and I remember there were cupcakes. And those are all the finer things in life, which is why I remember them. True. Cupcakes, friends, and bouncy houses. And my family, too, I guess.
Cupcakes, friends, and bouncy houses.
What a time to be alive.
You have the name of your memoir.
That's all 4-year-old Megan needs, and that's all 23-year-old Megan needs now.
Amen. Okay, so the Celtics go down 0-3 against the Miami Heat. Now, this ain't the same as the Yankees, right? Like the Heat are the 8th seed. This is embarrassing. Everyone's upset. But still, we're trying to get excited any way we can. So they got everyone out there. Kevin Millar does some interview. He does an interview with Dan Shaughnessy there in the Boston Globe. And then David Ortiz, he's all over the TV saying, hey, anything's possible. He's talking about that. And anyway, we get to Miami. The Heat are beating up on the Celtics in Game 4, their playoff series, right? And then who's in the crowd? Who do they cut to? First, Alex Rodriguez. He's there watching the game. I think he owns the Minnesota Timberwolves, the NBA team. Then it cuts to Derek Jeter, who's there watching the game. He's the owner of the Marlins baseball team. And I swear to God, I'm not making this up. Right after they showed those two guys from the 2004 Yankees, who of course fell after being up 3-0 against the Red Sox, Celtics go on a crazy run, win the game going away. And all of a sudden, I mean, I'm not saying we totally believe. We're still kind of mad at the Celtics, but all of a sudden now, this is a series.
And now, here's Sports in 10 Seconds with the Sportsman.
The Celtics coach just canceled his moving truck.
That's your Sports in 10 Seconds with Sportsman on Rineman in the Morning.
Megan, what else is going on?
Do you think it is legal to park in front of someone's house in Massachusetts?
No.
Well, the author, our coworker, had a situation happen where a neighbor parked in front of her house for a week. And I want to know, have you...
I don't know who this was, and
yeah,
she's a nice person.
She is.
But I bet it started to annoy her after a while.
Have you ever had anyone park in front of your house?
There was a guy that kept coming, not during hunting season. I feel bad about this, and I want an apology to this person. He kept coming to my mom's house. And when I would be there with Sadie or whatever, I'd look, and I kept seeing this car on the same day, like this truck parked across from her house, not during hunting season, like by the woods. And so, finally I called the police. I was like, hey, it's not hunting season right now. There's a lot of woods. I believe this is private property. But he was just there collecting antlers. You know how deer shed their antlers? Yeah, so I apologized, and I apologized. I said, please. No, it was all good. Like, they said, hey, we checked in on it. Doesn't even hunt. But that was the only time I've had that happen. But I don't know, man. I think in like a wooded area of New Hampshire, if someone parks their car in front of your house, creepy is what I would say. I would just try to get them some help.
There was a car that parked in front of my house for a few days, but I also have an upstairs neighbor, so I was always under the impression that whoever owned the car was just visiting my neighbor. I never saw anyone unusual.
You also never saw your neighbor again.
Actually, I saw my neighbor last night.
You ruined it, Megan. That was such a good break.
I know it was a good bit, and I decided to be horrible and ruin it.
1021, 1053 The Shark. We'll be right back with more Rineman in the Morning, where suspense goes to die.
Exactly.
It's time for your news on the nines with News Guy.
Happy birthday to Bob Dylan, who turned 82. He blew out his candles and made a wish, which even God could not understand. Gwyneth Paltrow's Father's Day gift guide includes sex toys and a Rolex, which can be one and the same if you get creative. Kate Middleton refused to sign an autograph for a child, saying it is not allowed, while Prince Harry signed his name on Buckingham Palace with a can of spray paint.
And that's your news on the nines. Now back to Rineman in the Morning.
We've reached that point where I wrote something for the Shark app and Megan has questions.
Tell me about this beloved pro sports team on its way back to New England.
Maybe. Possibly.
Perhaps.
It's a possibility.
Okay, so
the way things have been going.
People.
I will say this. It's a winter team, and the way things have been going with our winter sports teams in New England, it could be a welcome addition.
The New England Bobcats?
Hey, that's another thing. That's another article on the Shark app, though.
Yeah.
The Bobcat in Exeter. Did you see that? That they had bears, and now they have Bobcats.
What's the hype with Exeter?
So there's a Bobcat on the loose. Someone got a picture of it, I guess. It's
fantastic.
On the Shark. Yeah, go check it out on the Shark app. All the information you need. And you'd be surprised what regions of the state have Bobcats. It's pretty extensive. But someone made an interesting point where they're like, well, there's been so much development over there that the Bobcats are like, okay, we'll just go into the yard, I guess, because there's nowhere else to live. You've taken all the woods.
Yeah, well, I know we've gone a little bit off track from sports teams to animals, but I have to tell you something pretty exciting, actually. I have a little resident chipmunk in my backyard. There's
chipmunk?
There's a little stone wall, and he hangs out, and he chews his little nuts, and I've named him Lewis.
He does what?
He chews little acorns.
That's not what you said.
Nuts.
There it is.
You have a sense of humor of a 5-year-old.
We have our button.
But I read my little book outside, and then I turn around, and there's Lewis having a snack.
His name is Lewis?
That's what I named him. I'm thinking of getting some fruit or nuts again, or whatever chipmunks eat, and giving him some.
Okay.
So I can be a Disney princess. Let me live. This is 2023. I can be who I want.
It's classic hits for the Seacoast. 1021, 1053 The Shark. Hey, Lewis, I hope Megan's nice to your nuts.
And now, here's Sports in 10 Seconds with the Sportsman.
Tom Brady bought a football team in Las Vegas? I thought it was bad when I got drunk and bought share tickets.
That's your Sports in 10 Seconds with Sportsman on Rineman in the Morning.
And I asked you this trivia question. This native of West Newbury, Massachusetts, first debuted as a character named the Prototype, Rich in Georgetown. Who am I talking about?
I think you're talking about John Cena.
That is correct. You are entered to win $50 in Ben & Jerry's ice cream, Rich. Are you a wrestling fan, Rich?
Not really, to tell you the truth, but I like John Cena.
I like him. You know the only problem? I can't see him.
It's time for your news on the nines with News Guy.
Ron DeSantis announced he's running for president during a Twitter live stream that kept freezing up, which explains his campaign slogan, Glitch Please. It's rumored that Oprah Winfrey could replace Dianne Feinstein in the Senate, because who better to lead than the woman who gave us Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil? A dozen passengers got into a massive brawl at Chicago's O'Hare Airport. They were all taken into custody and hired as flight attendants for Southwest.
And that's your news on the nines. Now back to Rineman in the Morning.
Megan, what's going on?
So this is really sweet. There is a whopping 102-year-old Ipswich resident, and she was looking for an ebook recording of a book that her father used to read her when she was young, and her local library decided to step in and help. Isn't that sweet?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love this story.
We love feel-good stories here on Rineman in the Morning.
That's so awesome. That's like, oh my gosh. Well, let me ask you first. What did you read about? What was your book, your go-to book when you needed someone to read you a book to go to sleep?
We read a lot of the Ramona Quimby books.
Oh, yeah, Ramona. I remember.
Yeah, we read a lot of those. I'm mixing it up because there was Magic Treehouse, but there was also Magic School Bus, and I watched / read both.
There's a lot of magic.
There really was a lot of magic in learning and education, but I'm here for it.
Mine was Love You Forever. That was it's like, I love you forever. I'll love you for always. Something to something, my baby, you'll be. You ever read that book?
I think I know what you're talking about. Oh, Good Night Moon was a book that I read.
That was another one. Yeah.
My mom read that to me a lot. I do remember that.
Country Mouse and the City Mouse. That was a big one.
I've heard of that one. I might have read that one actually growing up.
But if we want to find out the e-book, that's amazing that 102 she could remember, because like we had to take a second and remember what we read, but 102 she knew exactly the book
of
her
course.
father used to read her.
And there's also
they found the e-book. Read about it on the Shark app. That's amazing.
There's a little bit of a twist at the end as well, depending on what Ipswich you're thinking of.
Wait a second. I hate when you do this to me.
And now, here's Sports in 10 Seconds with the Sportsman.
Sometimes on the weekend, I like to hit golf balls at UFOs.
That's your Sports in 10 Seconds with Sportsman on Rineman in the Morning.
We've reached that point where I wrote something for the Shark app, and I'm told Megan has questions.
What is it with your vendetta against squirrels?
Look, I don't anymore.
You do.
Because, no, I don't.
It never left.
No, I kind of don't, because I don't. It's Squirrel Week, first of all, here in New Hampshire. Don't mock me and mimic me on the radio. This isn't a broadcast. This isn't a televised radio show yet. You don't get to do that.
You got a great face for radio. My father said that to me when I got this job.
Oh, wow. Happy Father's Day.
Love you, Dad.
Enjoy your bag of rocks. No, but it's Squirrel Week. It is Squirrel Week here in the Granite State. And there's a company that wants to raise awareness of all the dangers and hazards of squirrels. Because, whenever things go wrong, it's got to be the squirrel's fault. Whenever the power goes out, whenever the internet's off, whenever you're plumbing. Oh, guess what? Apparently it's squirrels. Can you tell by the tone of my voice? I've kind of shifted my position on squirrels a little bit. I kind of do. Like, I've just kind of been like, hey, man, they eat pumpkins at Halloween. But really, and we go to the Shark app. If you want to read about Squirrel Week and all the alleged transgressions of squirrel, I don't know.
Those darn dirty squirrels you used to say.
I'm not saying it anymore because I realize I feel like I've spread hate against the squirrel community, and I don't want to be that person. I want to be a pillar of the squirrel community.
See, the first step is admitting that you have a problem, and then
I had a problem. I had a rage problem. You might say I was nuts.
I'm trying to think of a squirrel pun, but by the time I think of one, it's going to be too late.
You better watch out with your buddy Lewis there, your squirrel, who lives with you.
Lewis is a chipmunk. We've talked about this.
You better stick with that story when they come by.
He
when
is.
They send the van
I have
by
footage
to collect
of
the
him.
squirrels on Squirrel Week.
He sits on his little rock.
Yeah.
And he has a snack while I read a book. And it's very cute.
Yeah, they're going to be throwing the book at him because it's Squirrel Week.
Aw.
Eli and Durham, it's Squirrel Week here in northern New England. We're supposed to raise awareness about squirrels. Have you ever had any scary encounters with a squirrel?
You hate to run them over. Yeah.
But it sounds like you've done that a few times, Eli.
Yeah, I try to avoid them, and so I drive slow or whatever.
All right, this feels like the beginning of a Netflix documentary. I'm getting scared. Darlene in Plastow, you ever had any run-ins with a squirrel?
No.
None? Not at all?
No, not at all.
Do you think they're a threat to society, or should we just leave them alone?
Yeah, I think we should leave them alone. They don't bother us. What do they do?
They don't do anything, man. I agree to agree. Angie in South Berwick, you got any issues with squirrels?
Only when they go across or they're jumping out of a tree and get on your car and poop on your car. That's the only thing I don't like.
I have the same problem with tourists at Hampton Beach.
It's time for your news on the nines with News Guy.
It's rumored that Destiny's Child could reunite to make a new album. Beyonce got the idea from her assistants, the other members of Destiny's Child. Miley Cyrus refuses to tour because she cannot sleep on a moving bus. That's why I prefer to take naps at the bus stop. Gen Z has stopped wearing skinny jeans in favor of extremely baggy pants. So, after 62 years, it appears it is once again hammer time.
And that's your news on the nines. Now back to Rineman in the Morning.
Megan, what else is going on?
Well, in case you haven't been living under a rock, Taylor Swift.
In case I haven't been living under a rock?
Let's redo that. Can we redo?
We're on the radio right now. What are you talking about, redos? We don't do redos.
Dang it.
Don't make me go Tom
Let's
Hanks
pretend
on
that
you.
didn't happen. Well, in case you have been living under a rock, Taylor Swift has been absolutely taking the world by storm on her ongoing Eras tour. But one thing that I'm sure that you know through your concert-going experience is when you're recording a video of your favorite artist, you can't sing along.
It's true.
Because the recording device will always capture your voice, and I've learned that the hard way a couple times. I was fortunate enough to see Elton John, and I had to delete my recording of him singing Crocodile Rock because all you heard was me in the background going na 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 na. And
but you have a good voice though.
Not when you're in a stadium of like 60,000 people and you can't hear yourself. It did not sound pretty. But anyway, so when Taylor Swift recently performed at Gillette Stadium, a woman took a video of her singing "Cruel Summer" and her
the Bananarama Cool Summer. Does she do like a cover of it?
Well, she has a song called "Cruel Summer," and the woman recording the device, her Boston accent came out, so it became a "Cruel Summer." And her voice also sounds strangely like Lois from Family Guy, which makes it even better.
Oh, that's perfect.
and I have the video up on the Shark app. You can't see who's recording, but you can hear her, and it really is splendid. You might say it's "Cool Summer" Boston version.
It's a wicked summer. It's a summer bummer. That's one of my favorite Family Guy clips, is when they all go to see Barry Manilow, and he goes, thank you, and then you hear Peter's voice go, "You're welcome."
And now, here's Sports in 10 Seconds with the Sportsman.
Lacrosse, French for the cross.
That's your Sports in 10 Seconds with Sportsman on Rineman in the Morning.
Carol in Sanford, which author went on to better success with a lot of his projects when he dropped the fake name Richard Bachman?
Is it Stephen King?
Yes, it is. Congratulations. You are entered to win $50 in Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Do you like Stephen King, Carol?
Yes, I do.
What's your favorite Stephen King novel?
I actually haven't read Misery, and I would like to read that one, but I really don't know.
But you like him, though.
Yes, they're kind of creepy, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It kind of feels like I'm a teacher having someone give a book report right now. But you know what? You passed. You get an A. So you're entered in the contest. Thank you for playing Brain Freeze. And if you want to read more about Stephen King and a time I think he reversed the curse for the Red Sox, I think he was the unsung hero. He gave a really creepy interview during that crazy series with the Yankees in 2004. Go check it out on the Shark app.
It's time for your news on the nines with News Guy.
Well, it's one of the busiest barbecue weekends of the year. So, it was nice knowing you, eyebrows. If you are hosting a barbecue, make sure you ask everyone there how they would like their burger done before just grilling them all the same. I know it's not always popular, but I prefer my buns toasted. What can I say? I just like wearing a thong.
And that's your news on the nines. Now back to Rineman in the Morning.
You may have heard there have been some bear sightings here on the seacoast, so I have an expert from New Hampshire Fish and Game. Please welcome to Rineman in the Morning, Andrew Timmins. Hi, Andrew.
How are you this morning?
You know, there's been some black bear sightings on the seacoast recently. Is it common for bears to make their way down to this part of New Hampshire, or do you think they got like a Groupon to water country or something?
So, we have had bears statewide in New Hampshire for a long time, a decade plus. But admittedly, bear sightings down on the immediate coast have always been very low and not overly common. You go a little bit inland and bears are much more common. We certainly have established bear populations in places like Bedford and Merrimack and some of those other towns. But admittedly, we don't get a lot of reports from Exeter and some of those more towns a little closer to the coast. But, bears are very adaptable. We know bears have expanded their range and distribution in New Hampshire. So I'm not really surprised, but I certainly recognize that it's kind of a novel sighting in the town of Exeter in those areas.
So in terms of planning ahead, what are some things people can do to prevent bears from coming too close to their homes?
Yeah, so, living with bears is actually pretty easy to do, but it requires increased human responsibility. So, as a resident of that town, knowing that there's bears around, there's steps you can take to avoid having conflicts with bears. And it really relates to securing food attractants. Bears come into these residential areas because there's lots of high-quality food there, and this comes in the form of bird feeders, unsecured garbage, unprotected chickens, pet foods left outside, those type of things. So if you really just take precautions and think about, what do you have in your yard that a bear might like to eat, and securing those and just not allowing bears to gain access. So as far as bird feeders go, we really recommend that bird feeders be down by April 1 each year and don't go back up until 1st of December.
Wow.
Because wherever you live in the state, if you have a bird feeder out, there is a chance you will attract a bear. And most people feed, any of the bird seeds will attract bears, but the one that most people feed is the black oil sunflower seed, which is just very nutritious for any wildlife species. So, you don't want to have that stuff out. Feeding birds during the day and removing feeders at night is really not a viable approach, because bears will just start coming during the day.
Yeah, the bears they're not at work or something. They can still show up.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or even when you pull your feeder at night, there's enough seed spilt on the ground that can be enough of an attractant. Garbage, if you have a dumpster, we really recommend that you contact your waste company and request a metal top dumpster that can be locked. If you use garbage cans, keep them in a secure building. Don't keep your garbage can out on the front steps with garbage in it. So just taking those type. In chickens, I need to mention chickens. If you have chickens, the best way to protect chickens, prevent issue with bears or other wildlife, is to utilize electric fencing. So if you take those steps, you really can live in harmony with bears. They're not a species that needs to be feared. I understand this is a sow with cubs. That does not make her any kind of an aggressive bear. She's just looking for easy food. She has a high nutritional demand on her right now because she's producing milk for those cubs.
Yep.
So she's all about high-quality food, and she's going to find it in people's yards. So we just need to be one step ahead of the bears and make sure that when a bear may wander in your yard looking, but if there's no food there, they're not going to stick around. They're going to move on.
Now, prevention doesn't work. What are things people need to remember in case they encounter a black bear?
If you see a bear, if you see a bear in your yard and you don't want the bear there, you can step outside and just make some normal noise, When you encounter a bear, the approach is to show the bear that you're you're not submissive, but also show the bear that you're not threatening. So if you hiking in the woods or down the road and all of a sudden the bear pops out, 30 yards in front of you, whatever it is, just make the bear aware of you. Raise your hands and just kind of say, "Hey, bear, I'm here, bear," and you start yelling and screaming at the bear and escalating it. Just letting the bear know that you're there. Yeah. Maintaining eye contact with the bear.
Oh.
That tells the bear that you're not submissive, but you're also not a threat. And just talking in that calm voice that lets the bear know that you're calm, and it helps keep you calm. I do need to mention dogs. Bears do not come into yards and chase dogs or go after dogs. But what can happen is if you have an aggressive dog that will chase the bear, one or two things may happen. That bear may climb a tree, or if the dog or the bear may kind of square off with the dog and challenge the dog. And when we have issues between bears and dogs, it's when the dog acts aggressive, goes after the bear, and then the bear turns around and tries to dominate the dog and chases the dog. And what usually happens with most of these dogs, once it feels like it's being chased or scared, it runs right back to the owner. So then suddenly you have a charging bear coming after a dog that's now hiding between the owner's legs. And when we've had any type of bear-human contacts in the state, it's always involved an aggressive dog. So I would recommend that people keep their dog under control. This can either be by leash, or if you have a well-trained dog, by voice command, that's fine. But, you just want to think about the behavior of your dog and whether or not that dog is going to be aggressive towards a bear and try to go after the bear. Because that can take what would be a very benign interaction and make it more than that.
Last question. Who do you think would win on an episode of Judge Judy, Goldilocks or the Three Bears?
I couldn't wage a guess.
I mean, she broke into their house, so I'm taking the Three Bears. Andrew Timmins from the New Hampshire Fish and Game, thank you so much. And where can people go if they want to find out more resources or information?
If you have questions about bears, you can call the Wildlife Division at 271-2461, or you can visit the department's website for more information on bears.
Visit www.wildlife.state.nh.us.
And now, here's Sports in 10 Seconds with the Sportsman.
The Celtics are freaking zombies, man.
That's your Sports in 10 Seconds with Sportsman on Rineman in the Morning.
Megan, what's going on?
So as someone who works in customer service and the service industry, or who has in the past, I thought that it would be awesome to pay a little shout out to some New Hampshire restaurants that are known for having really fantastic customer service.
Oh, interesting. And how did you go about finding which restaurants have the best customer service? Did you go to every restaurant in New Hampshire?
I asked the good people of Facebook. If you want to sponsor a trip.
There are good people on Facebook? Wow.
I know, weirdly enough. If you want to sponsor a little excursion I can go on where I can try every restaurant in the state, okay. All 3,000 of them.
Are there 3,000 restaurants in New Hampshire?
That's the word on the street in the office, I should say. 3,000 plus.
Word on the street? What are you walking around the woods? And just
of course. Yeah. I hang out with all the squirrels. Where do you think I go when I leave the office?
Can you give me one of them?
Ryman?
Can you give me just one? I know I got to go to the Shark app, but is there anything that you jumped out and said, yeah, that place is great?
One is Petey's in Rye.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I haven't been there have I ever been there? I think I went once, and I need
you gotta go again.
What it boils down to is I need to go again. That's what I
Did you say boils down to on purpose? Did you just make a lobster pun on my show?
Unintentionally. I'm that good at making puns. I make them without even realizing I'm making them.
Wow.
Aren't I funny?
Pun.
Always.
Till her daddy takes the T-bird away.
Love the Beach Boys.
It's time for your News on the Nines with News Guy.
42 million Americans are traveling for Memorial Day weekend, and they are all sitting in your row on JetBlue. The best times to travel in your car this weekend are Saturday and Sunday, while the worst time is right after eating at Chipotle. Officials in Massachusetts are advising drivers to use real-time travel apps, while they're advising passengers on the T to roast some marshmallows when the train catches fire.
And that's your news on the nines. Now back to Rineman in the Morning.
We're playing Brain Freeze, your chance to win $50 in Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Marcia and Dover, who was it who spent his summers in Ipswich, Massachusetts, and he's him and you're not?
It was Chevy Chase.
That's it. Congratulations.
Yay.
My goodness, that was a difficult one, and you nailed it. How'd you know? How did you figure it out?
I just remember watching Saturday Night Live when I was babysitting as a teenager, and I'm Chevy Chase and you're not.
There you go. Congratulations, Marcia. You're Marcia, and they're not.
Exactly.
Now on Rineman in the Morning, it's What's Up on the Shark app with Megan, the Shark's own app and website guru.
Megan, what else is going on?
I'm always really interested by things related to history, as you know, and a New England hero who was captured in World War II and unfortunately passed away as a prisoner of war was finally accounted for after 80 years. And
wow.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
That is. DNA testing really is unbelievable.
This must be an incredible story. So Shark app,
For sure.
go find this out. Because I can't even begin to piece together how they would do this. This must be been an amazing investigation.
Yeah, no, it really
years.
is. It's fascinating stuff.
Because I know they just discovered a submarine that was built here in New England that had been missing for 80 plus years. And so it's just amazing what they're doing with all this technology now that they're solving these mysteries.
And this one isn't so much a mystery, but I saw something recently about how they have like 3D models or digital models of what the Titanic currently looks like. That's really cool.
Yeah, and you know who's done a lot of that work is UNH, your alma mater.
Yeah.
Their department over there at UNH, they have this whole department. I think they're like leading the nation. Like they're one of the top.
Them.
Yeah,
That's
they
great.
have this great thing where it's this device. I can't remember the name of it. It's called like Buddy or something like that. I'll look up the name, but there's this device at UNH they have, and they gave it this cool nickname, and it goes around and just finds stuff in the ocean. But this is a touching story. This is a soldier that their fate was unknown and now accounted for. So some closure for that family, and it's an amazing story if you want to go read it on the Shark app. My next guest is a very funny comedian. I used to perform with him down at the Comedy Cellar in New York City. He's playing the Hampton Beach Casino Ballroom on Thursday evening, June 1st. Welcome to Rineman in the Morning. Sam Morril. Sam, how's it going?
How you been, man?
I've been all right. It's good to talk to you. Tell me about this podcast you're hosting with Patriots legend Julian Edelman. What's this all about?
We're on a search to find the greatest game, so it's evergreen. You can listen to it any time. We just are like, what's the greatest game ever? So we kind of rank games where they rank to us. We break down like the stakes, the star power, all that stuff, and then we'll get the people who actually played in the games on the show. That's the fun part. The really cool ones are the ones where we have a winner and a loser on, which the 18-0 Patriots losing to the Giants, we actually had Eli and Teddy Bruschi on. So that was pretty damn easy to get a guy like Bruschi to do that when he's won so many Super Bowls. But that's one maybe you should skip. But then, we've had some pretty amazing guests.
Yeah, you had Paul Pierce on recently. What game did you talk about with Paul?
For that, we kind of made it just the series, the Celtics versus the Lakers. But, of course, we talked about in depth the wheelchair game where he just adamantly denied pooping his pants. That was a big thing where we're like, come on, you poop. And he, the funniest part was like,
I was at that game. Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty epic. I mean, Knicks fans always hate it, but we respected Pierce, because because now he's kind of underrated. I feel like young kids don't realize how good Pierce was and how clutch he was. Yeah, that's the best part of zooming in some of these athletes is you don't know where they're going to show up on the Zoom. You're watching a dude with like a joint in his mouth trying to figure out a microphone. Yeah, Pierce is smoking chocolate mint hookah by his mansion pool in L.A. It's just like it's just an interesting way to chat with them.
When people come to the casino, though, what can they expect to hear you talk about? What's on the tour this time?
Well, it's a new hour, but it's a lot of the same themes. I mean, not a lot's changed in the country, so it's a lot of social commentary stuff, some dating stories, some relationship stuff, and some fun stuff. It's coming together. I've been touring with this for a little while now, so each week it keeps getting better. That's the funny part is you post where you're going and you get all these angry comments in Instagram, and I'm like, well, I'll be in your city when it's actually good. So that's,
If you want to go see Sam, go to casinoballroom.com. Get some tickets. And I heard there's a big basketball game in Miami tomorrow night.
And now, here's Sports in 10 Seconds with the Sportsman.
The Celtics got Pat Riley sweating so hard his hair just created an oil spill.
That's your Sports in 10 Seconds with Sportsman on Rineman in the Morning.
We reached that point where I wrote something for the Shark app and Megan has questions.
So what is this about mini Fenway parks?
So I used to think there was like one Fenway Park that was like a Little League field. You know, sometimes they'll do that. They'll take a Little League field and they'll turn it up and everything. And then I saw someone post about a place in Vermont that has a mini Fenway Park.
Really?
Yeah, it looked amazing. So then I got to thinking, is that the one I'm thinking of? No, the one I was thinking of is in New Hampshire, and they have a Fenway Park. And then it turns out there are 6 miniature Fenway Parks here in New England, and they're all kind of the same but different in their own wonderful way. It's a really fun road trip. If you're anywhere in air, it might be in your own backyard. And, those fields aren't always being used, so you can go there and take some batting practice. That's my one and only chance to hit a baseball over the green monster.
I haven't played baseball since I was a child.
Yeah. Well, I would think that. That's how it is for most people.
Well, no, I mean, like,
I haven't played baseball since 2 years ago.
Recreationally.
I burned out down in Pawtucket with the Red Sox. I threw out my arm, and now I'm in radio.
Like, when I was in school, I never played softball.
Really? How come?
I was a theater kid. I didn't sport.
You didn't sport?
One time when I was 10, I made a basket in a basketball game.
You did?
That is my single athletic related accomplishment.
Well, you made a basket. You never know. You might get a call from the Celtics.
Never know.
It is time for the Big Brain Freeze drawing. Here again are our 5 finalists who answered local trivia correctly. We have Bonnie in South Berwick, Maine, Steve in Epping, New Hampshire, Rich in Georgetown, Massachusetts, Carol in Sanford, Maine, and a last-minute entry. She got in under the wire, Marcia in Dover, New Hampshire. I'm putting the names in my green Celtics hat. I'm shuffling them around. And the winner of the 2023 Rineman in the Morning Brain Freeze and $50 in Ben & Jerry's ice cream is Carol in Sanford, Maine. Congratulations, Carol. Thank you to everyone who played Brain Freeze.
I'm Charlie Butters, and it's time for your Friday Flix. Now in theaters is the live-action remake of Disney's The Little Mermaid. As we know, there aren't really crabs that can speak with a Jamaican accent. But take it from me, you can absolutely get crabs on a trip to Jamaica. Another new release is About My Father, starring Robert De Niro, which focuses on a culture clash during a family gathering. So if you like Meet the Parents, just watch that. Out this weekend is the film White Balls on Walls. It's a documentary about modern art and not my trip to Jamaica. I'm Charlie Butters. And remember to keep an eye on the screen and a hand in the
nuts.